Operation Uranus was the codename of the Soviet strategic operation in World War II which led to the encirclement of the German Sixth Army. The operation was executed at roughly the midpoint of the 5-month-long Battle of Stalingrad, and was aimed at destroying German forces in and around Stalingrad. Planning for Operation Uranus had commenced in September 1942, and was developed simultaneously with plans to envelop and destroy German Army Group Center and German forces in the Caucasus. The Red Army took advantage of the German Army's poor preparation for winter, and the fact that its forces in the southern Soviet Union were overstretched near Stalingrad. Welcome to the first episode of our series of Stalingrad Battle. If you like documentary war simulation, please don't forget to check out our videos. On June 28, 1942, the Wehrmacht began its offensive against Soviet forces opposite of Army Group South, codename Case Blue. After breaking through Red Army forces by 13th of July, German forces encircled and captured the city of Rostov. Following the fall of Rostov, Hitler split German forces operating in the southern extremity of the southern Russian force in an effort to simultaneously capture the city of Stalingrad and the Caucasus oil fields. The responsibility to take Stalingrad was given to the Sixth Army, which immediately turned towards the Volga River and began its advance with heavy air support from the Luftwaffe. On 7th of August, 2 German Panzer Corps were able to flank and encircle a Soviet force of 50,000 personnel and approximately 1,000 tanks. And on 22nd of August, German forces began to cross the Don River to complete the advance towards the Volga. The following day, the Battle of Stalingrad began when vanguards of the Sixth Army penetrated the suburbs of the city. Operation Uranus involved the use of large Soviet mechanized and infantry forces to encircle German and other Axis forces directly around Stalingrad. The offensive was a double envelopment. Soviet mechanized forces would penetrate deep into the German rear, while another attack would be made closer to the German Sixth Army in an effort to attack German units there directly in the rear. While the Red Army prepared, the German high commanders, influenced by their belief that the Red Army building up opposite Germany Army Group Center to the north, and was incapable of mounting a simultaneous offensive in the south, and continued to deny the possibility of an impending Soviet offensive. Operation Uranus was finally launched on 19th of November. At 7:30, the Katyusha rocket launchers fired the first salvos and were soon joined in by the 3,500 guns and mortars stretching along the few breakthrough sectors in front of the 3rd Romanian Army. Although thick fog prevented the Soviet artillery from correcting their aim, their weeks of preparation and ranging allowed them to lay down accurate fire on enemy positions along the front. The effect was devastating, as communication lines were breached, ammunition dumps destroyed and forward observation points shattered. Many Romanian personnel who survived the bombardment began to flee to the rear. The offensive against the 3rd Romanian Army began at 8:50, led by the 21st and 65th Soviet Armies and the 5th Tank Army. The first 2 assaults were repulsed by the Romanian defenders, and the effects of the heavy artillery bombardment had actually made it more difficult for Soviet armor to navigate through the minefields and terrain. However, the lack of heavy anti-tank artillery caused the Romanian defense to collapse. The Soviet 21st Army and 5th Tank Army were able to capture some 27,000 Romanian prisoners. The Stalingrad front began its attack on 10 a.m. at 20th of November. As the 57th Army joined the attack at 10 o'clock, the situation developed in such a way that the Stalingrad front could throw its armored corps into battle. While the Stalingrad front launched its offensive on 20th of November, the 65th Soviet Army continued to apply pressure to the Germans along the northern shoulder of the 6th Army's flank. The Red Army's 4th Tank Corps advanced beyond the German 11th Corps, while the 3rd Guards Cavalry Corps crashed into the German unit's rear. By the end of the day, that the Soviet 26th Tank Corps had captured the town of Perelizovsky, almost 130 kilometers to the northwest of Stalingrad. The Red Army's offensive continued on 21st of November, with forces of the Stalingrad front achieving penetrations of up to 50 kilometers. By this time remaining Romanian units in the north were being destroyed in isolated battles, while the Red Army began to engage flanking portions of the German 4th Panzer and 6th Armies. The Soviet 26th Tank Corps, having destroyed a large portion of the Romanian 1st Armored Division, continued its advance to the southeast, avoiding engaging enemy left behind. That day German General Friedrich Paulus, commander of the 6th Army, received reports that the Soviets were less than 40 kilometers from his headquarters. Furthermore, there were no remaining units which could contest the Soviet advance. In the south, after a brief halt, the Soviet 4th Mechanized Corps continued its advance north, removing German defenders from several towns in the area, towards Stalingrad. As German forces in and around Stalingrad were at risk, Hitler ordered German forces in the area to establish an all-around defensive position and designated forces between the Don and Volga rivers as Fortress Stalingrad, rather than allow the 6th Army to attempt to break out. The 6th Army, other Axis units, and most of the 4th Panzer Army's German units were caught inside the growing Soviet encirclement. On 22nd of November Soviet forces began to cross the Don River and continued their advance towards the town of Kalach. German forces defending Kalach, mostly composed of maintenance and supply personnel, were not aware of the Soviet offensive until 21 November. And even then did not know in what strength the Red Army was approaching. The encirclement of German forces in Stalingrad was completed on November 22, 1942. Fighting continued on 23 of November as the Germans attempted in vain to mount local counterattacks to break the encirclement. By this time Axis personnel inside the encirclement moved east towards Stalingrad to avoid Soviet tanks, while those that managed to escape the encirclement moved west toward German and other Axis forces. Operation Uranus trapped between 250,000 and 300,000 Axis soldiers within an area stretching 50 kilometers from east to west and 40 kilometers north to south. The pocket contained 4 infantry corps, a panzer corps belonging to the 4th Panzer and 6th Armies, and surviving elements of 2 Romanian divisions, a Croat infantry regiment and other specialist units. Trapped equipment included around 100 tanks, 2,000 artillery pieces and mortars and 10,000 trucks. Although German military commanders were of the opinion that Wehrmacht forces caught in the encirclement should break out, between 23 and 24 November Hitler decided instead to hold the position and attempt to resupply the 6th Army by air. The personnel trapped in Stalingrad would require at least 680 tons of supplies per day, a task which the depleted Luftwaffe was in no condition to carry out. Furthermore, the revived Red Air Force was a threat to German aircraft attempting to fly over the encirclement. Although by December the Luftwaffe had assembled a fleet of around 500 aircraft, this was still insufficient to supply the 6th Army and elements of the 4th Panzer Army with the required supplies. During the first half of December the 6th Army received less than 20% of their daily requirements. In the meantime, the Red Army strengthened its outer encirclement with the intention of destroying the encircled German units. Soviet armies would attack German units to the east and the south, aiming to split German units into smaller groups. The Soviet High Command also began planning for Operation Saturn, which was aimed at destroying the Italian 8th Army and cutting off German forces in the Caucasus, which will be the subject of our next video. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel.